Good evening, good morning, good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Happy Friday, Fattercasters. It's here again, it's rolled around, it's time for a beer, it's Friday, it's 5 o'clock. Cheers, everyone. And there we go. Carlsberg export this week. Once again, supplies of Heineken are quite elusive in Redcar. They've got the bottles, and they've got the little mini 330ml cans, you know, the fun-sized ones. Remember those little fun-sized Mars bars? But they don't have the proper-sized cans of Heineken. Couldn't find them anywhere. So Carlsberg export it is. Got a couple of some notes here I want to talk to you about tonight. All the usual stuff. We'll be looking at viewers' guitars. We're going to be... I'll be relating maybe one or maybe two of the viewers' tales that have come in. Excuse me. It is the thing with Carlsberg, like it is a bit gassy. And that rather sets the tone for proceedings, I think. All the usual stuff. Some news about the Agrajag Guitars raffle. If you haven't been on the website and seen it, then I'll give you an update on that and all the rest of it. But before we get into any of that, let's have a look through the register, the roll call, see who's in. And Mark Kerno, teacher's pet this week, first in, followed rapidly, both showing at 2:56 p.m. By Rent to Kill and Terry Day. Excuse me. Oh, there we go. Then we got David James, we got Theme Tunes, we got Johnny Random, we got Rubbish Guitar Blog, Peter Collins, Mark Goens, Grandpa Joe, who picked up a lung virus in Europe. Meds are very slow working, however, I'll be watching today. Wishing everyone a happy and safe weekend. You get well soon, Joe. He is he is Dr. Robson's prescription. It's basically Dr. Bell's magical Highland elixir. Okay, that cures many, many things, I find. And if you can't get Dr. Bell's, well, Dr. Johnny Walker's is just as good. Then we've got Boulder 64, we've got Jed Ellis, we've got Otto Genoan and Stephen Hedger. Craig Stamen is in, so is Martin Thompson, Malcolm Spillett, John Ross and Sir Baldwin Snarky. Then who else we've got? We've got Edwin Tunin all the way from Amsterdam, Peter S. Paul Taylor, who's just over the Pennines from me in Cumbria. My old stomping ground. I used to live over there many, many moons ago. Still go over there for a holiday every now and again. We've got Peter Nicholson, Frank Bolam, Joe McMurray, Johnny D. Nathan is in, so is Jamal123 and Thomas Mulvaney. Oh, dear me. Cylon Hybrid is there, so is Gordo Canuck, Cushman NYC, 60s man Gary Shaw, session guitar legend Gary Shaw. We got Chip Young, we've got, let's have a look, Ian Clark, Mickey Walnuts and Austin Barrett, who's saying he liked my pick video. Yeah, the irony of it is it wasn't that long ago when I said how fast picking was one of my kind of Achilles heels on the guitar, but for just basic pick technique, how to hold it, that was yesterday's video. So I do know a little bit about how to use a pick. We got Robert Forsyth, we got the Dale 22, the Essex Cat, and Calby and the Rocco Cat is there. So is David Evans and Colin Falcon. We've got Peter Hall, we've got Chris Otwell, and let's see if there's anyone else. Carl Tom, another one of the Redcar lads, along with Colin Falcon. Jimmy James is there, so is Cal Texper and Ravensmead. Let's see who else. We've got John Channing, Bill Mumbo, and Stevie Mack. And I'm always scared that I mispronounce this name. Apology, because I'll tell you why, right? My name's John Robson, and for years I just... I'll get, hello, is that Mr. Robinson? No, it bloody well isn't. So I feel your pain if I mispronounce your name and get it wrong. But this is Anders Nybakken guitar. I hope I said that right. There's Jem Powell, who's off for a curry and he's not driving. Well, you get that Cobra down you, mate. Or is it Kingfisher at your curry house? It'll be one of the two, guaranteed. Then Graham Campbell is there, so is Peter Williamson, Billy Paul, and who else have we got? We've got Brad Dowell, and John Mack is there. Stevie Mack is in, and so is Jeff Bennett, Ollie M, and Martin Bix. And there's guitar bass student Dudley Squat just clattering through the door. Who else have we got? Oh, Johnny D, got a new guitar. Got another steal from Amazon Resale Returns, Squire 50s Classic Vibe Strat. I saw you talking about, I heard you talking about, I heard Steve Cassidy reading that out on when I watched his live stream on Catch Up earlier on today. And we got Bill Rogers all the way from Texas. And there's Danny Fisher and Billy Paul. And let's have a look. We've got Robin Fawcett. We've got Pablo Hank. Nice to see you in there, mate. And Mississippi Blues is in. So is Moon's Guitars. Who else? Anyone else? Joe McCarthy is there. And Joe is the very kind gentleman responsible for me owning that lovely Nashville Telecaster on the back wall there. Thank you, Joe. You are a gentleman, sir. Then who else we got? We got Paul Coleman, Dave Snack Stevens, Van Doom, and anyone else? Oh, Mr. Chris 5254 is in. And there's the aforementioned Steve Cassidy guitar. I believe you got a gig tonight, mate. Break a leg. Hope it goes well for you. And I think that's everyone. If I missed you, I do apologise. It wasn't on purpose. It's when you sat this side of the screen and you're using streaming software, quite often the chat just jumps and you don't know whether it's kind of gone back up or back down, and you know inevitably you can miss things. John, you've got to tell us the weather on Redcar Beach. Funnily enough, Peter Nicholson, I don't go to the beach that much. With our last dog, Taylor, he used to love to be let off the lead and just basically do, and any dog owner will recognise this term. He loved to do zoomies up and down the beach. But we can't let Dougal off the lead because he just wouldn't come back. He would 9 times out of 10, but it's the 10th time that you got to worry about, because he will see a feather or a leaf floating past on the breeze, and that's it. He's just gone, and that's his entire focus. And if that means he ends up on a main road, then that's what he would do. So we have to keep him on a long lead and just kind of get his running exercise kind of energy dissipation out of his system in the backyard by letting him chase one of those really bouncy balls. Seems to work. So the short answer is, mate, I haven't been on Redcar Beach today, but I did see the Staton. Well, not was it yesterday? I think it was. Yeah, the big iron grey sea of the North Sea, the waves crashing. It was epic, really. Oh, we got Johnny in Budget Guitar Show. Nice to see you, mate. Anyone else? Budget Pedal Chap, nice to see you in as well, mate. Anyway, talking about Redcar Beach and my dog walking procedures, I got distracted. I need to tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. So Sunday's video is one that it's a video I've been wanting to do for quite some time, but I've never been in a position to do it because I've never had. It's a 3-way guitar comparison, and I've never had all 3 of the requisite guitars in this room all at the same time together before. So the 3 most popular guitars I would probably guess would be the Fender Stratocaster, the Fender Telecaster, and the Gibson Les Paul. You know, if you look in terms of like iconic electric guitars, my kind of pick of the three most iconic ones are those. And I've never had a Strat, a Telly, and a Les Paul in the same room together up until very recently. So that's what Sunday's video is going to be about. Basically, let's have a listen to them all side by side, and you know, in the usual kind of piece of music sort of format that I do, and just hear how different they all sound, and you know, basically just a bit of fun comparing three guitars. Then on Monday, it's one of my continuing series of lessons on lead guitar basics. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep on calling this lead guitar basics, because I think we left the basics side of things quite some time ago, but it's a lead guitar lesson on chord tones, basically. Yeah, the secret, really, the secret sauce that makes any guitar solo sound melodic. Not just guitar solos, it's ever since music evolved to the point where we had chord sequences, rather than just lots of little intricate melodies weaving in and out of each other like in the Baroque period. Ever since we got to the point where we have a sequence of chords with a melody on top, the idea of each prominent note in that melody needs to be a note from the underlying chord has just been ubiquitous. You know, you're as likely to find it in the work of Mozart as you are in the work of Motorhead or Metallica or whatever. So, you know, that's basically Monday's video. Then Tuesday is frankly the band that got me into rock music, but I didn't really think of them as a rock band at the time, because, you know, back in the 1970s, you would think of rock bands as being Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, that kind of stuff. Those were rock bands, and those bands tended not usually to release singles. So, you know, as a 9 or 10-year-old, I wasn't hearing their music, because, you know, the top 40 was what I was listening to. I think it was even still just the top 20 back then. But there was one rock band who were regularly releasing singles and getting into the hit parade, as we'll call it, back then. I am, of course, talking about Status Quo. So we're going to be talking about, on Tuesday, my top 5 list will be my 5 favourite Status Quo songs. Cal Texper's saying, hi, John. Let's put you up on screen, mate. Did you see the PRS 40th anniversary Dragon guitar? Very over the top. Yes, mate. That is pretty much the definition of what I would call a Liberace guitar, you know, or a footballer's wives guitar. You know, it's. I mean, you've got to marvel at the skill involved in building an instrument like that. But, you know, it's. You know, if I was to buy one of those, I would have to buy a pair of leather trousers and a shirt that's open to the waist and a big gold medallion. You know, basically dressed like Disco Stew from the Simpsons, because you'd have to go with that whole aesthetic. Me picking up a guitar like that would be like putting a Rolex on a orangutan. So, you know, it's not really for me. So Tuesday is top 5 Status Quo songs. Wednesday is another songwriting lesson, all about, this week, the Mixolydian mode. I think I've called it Distilled Essence of Country Blues Southern Rock, or something like that. The video is called. And then Thursday is all about that red guitar you can see on the wall behind me there, that Squier Classic Vibe Strat. I've had it long enough now for the novelty factor to have worn off, and you know, so how's it settling in? Is it still something I reach for on a regular basis? Is it a guitar that it's a keeper because I need a Strat? Basically, I need a Strat. That's the reason I bought it. It's just as like a benchmark guitar. But you know, you'll find out on Thursday whether it's something that is it a Strat that has won my heart and won me back over to the kind of Stratocaster fold. Well, you'll find the answer to that burning question on Thursday. And after that little marathon, I need to just lubricate a little bit. Oh, dear me. Right. Let me just refill. And I'll have a look in the chat, and we'll find something to blether on about before we get round to the other scheduled events in this evening's itinerary. There we go. Everybody get ready to type the word flake, because export is something of a lively pour. I find, although this isn't doing bad, it's not doing bad. I would not be offended if I was served that in a pub. So yeah, I'll stick with that anyway. Right, what you been talking about while I've been pouring a beer? Yeah, Gordo Canuck is saying, I think that dragon guitar is not meant to be played, but displayed. Indeed. It's very much a display piece, isn't it? It's, somebody that can afford that is, it's not going to get gigged. It's not going to get taken out. It's going to be in a glass case, and it's going to be, a talking point at some swanky dinner party. Rent to Kill is saying, I know I'm early, but will there be a special Christmas show, John? Yeah, it's kind of becoming the tradition now, isn't it? Christmas Day, 1 p.m. UK time. I would like to do it later, but I will not be sober enough later. I'll barely be sober enough at 1 p.m. because Christmas Day starts with alcohol, basically. We have this tradition in our house of having gunfire, which is coffee or tea, whatever your breakfast beverage of choice happens to be. For me, it's coffee, but laced with a healthy glug of rum, and that sort of sets you up for the day, really. So one of the reasons I like Christmas, because it's the one day out of 365 where you can have alcohol with your breakfast and nobody judges you. It's you can crack open a can of beer at 10 o'clock in the morning and everybody thinks it's perfectly normal. Budget Guitar Show saying, what's melody? I just bash it out. There's something to be said for that, mate. I know you're kind of a big fan of the punk ethic, and that visceral kind of just clatter it out is it butters many parsnips, shall we say. Then let's have a look. What else are we talking about? Malcolm Spillett is saying, speaking of Liberace guitars, I'm selling my pink Paisley Telly. If anybody's interested in a pink Paisley Telecaster, and you want to connect with Malcolm, then just, the email address. I mention it every week, jrguitartuition@gmail.com. Ping me a line and I'll put you in touch with Malcolm, and you can maybe sort something out. Dave Fiendish is saying, sorry, John and fellow Fatcasters, I've had no net, apparently to the adverse weather. Oh, then he's giving some advice on fornication and travel. So there you go. Yes. Craig Stamen is saying, my number one guitar is now my Agrajag guitar. James is a phenomenal luthier. He is indeed. And, I am kind of looking at the savings account and thinking, I wonder how much of that I can I can withdraw to go to James. And we'll see. Mark Goens is saying, my favourite Status Quo song is Don't Waste My Time from the Pile Driver album. I love that song since I was 4. The problem is, when I do these top 5 videos, right, I do all of my videos at least a month in advance. So Tuesday's top 5 videos probably done sometime before Halloween, kind of last month. And I research the list, and I kind of get it down to maybe 10 or 15, and then I'll listen to the tunes, and then I'll kind of, start thinking, well, yeah, I've got to get this down to 5. And by the time I've got it down to 5, it's like, those are the ones I'm going to go with. But then weeks go by before the video goes out, and then I mention it on the live stream here. And at the moment, I can tell you what my top 10 favourite Status Quo songs are, but I can't remember which 5 went on the list. I can't really. Oh, what's this? Edwin Tunin, enjoy the beers, mate. Thank you so much, mate. You are a gentleman, sir. That is very, very generous of you. Thank you. That will go to a good cause. That will go to, well, if you can call this a good cause. I think it's a very good cause. Rent-A-Kill is saying, John, you need to go on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. It'll be worth watching that. Yeah, over my dead body. It's I've never watched the show. I know that it's something to do with celebrities in basically instead of it's sort of Big Brother, isn't it? Which is just a televised prison, but this is a televised jungle. The wife's into all that sort of stuff. Jackie, she watches this show called Traitors, which, as I'm kind of passing through the living room, I've seen it, and it seems to me that the premise of that show is that you get Davina Winkleman, or is it Claudia McCall, one of those two, because they're pretty much interchangeable, and in a televised castle that is filled with annoying middle class dinner party people, and you encourage them to bicker, and that's pretty much the premise of the show. I think the jungle thing is pretty much the same sort of thing as that. Just people bickering and being mean and kind of gossiping about each other whilst eating maggots. It's call me old fashioned if you like, but I'd rather watch some reruns of Porridge because that's entertaining. But anyway, let's have a look. What have I missed while I've been ranting? Johnny D's been batch cooking a weapons-grade Thai curry for Dindins tonight. That's what we're having tonight, not Thai curry. I do a pretty mean chicken madras, it has to be said. Which the recipe went up on the channel. I'm not going to do any more of those cooking videos because they don't perform particularly well. And I've done the beef casserole, and I've done the chicken curry, the chicken madras. But that is what is... been taken out of the freezer for tonight's delectation, along with several more of these, and feet up in front of the television like a normal person for an evening, because normally I don't do that. Normally it's like I finish working here about 8 or 9 p.m. and I catch an hour of maybe an episode of Wheeler Dealers or Clarkson's Farm or something, and then I'm sort of drooping tired and I go to bed. But Friday evenings are my evening in front of the TV. Dr. Gomez one is saying, why not vindaloo? I used to eat vindaloo in the olden days, mate, but the essential ingredient for a vindaloo is basically about 12 pints of lager before you turn up at the Indian restaurant. It's a bit too much for me nowadays. A madras is about my limit. And when I go to Bengal Spice, I don't even have that because I can make a decent madras at home. I have their chicken tikka, like a barbecued kind of dry chicken kind of thing. Gorgeous. Anyway, lightweight, says Dr. Gomez one. I did try a Bengal or fowl once, a fowl curry. Oh dear me, it was like trying to eat napalm. It was just insane. I tried it for a bet and I lost the bet. I was whimpering in the car park. There was like I think I got like an ice cream or something from a newsagent that was still open opposite the curry house, and went in there and got a cornetto to cool my mouth down. I see we've got Lammy in. Just give a plug for all my fellow YouTubers. Don't forget Steve Cassidy has a video going out straight after this live stream at 6 p.m. And then you've got Budget Guitar Show. Johnny, when's your stream, mate? It's Sundays, 6:30, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Stick your link in the chat. Anybody that's got the blue spanner, if you've got your, the moderator status, if you've got your own channel, please feel free to stick a link in the chat. And then we've got Lammy's live stream on Monday. I try and catch it when I can, but unfortunately I'm often working late on a Monday evening. But if you can catch it, it's absolutely fantastically mad. It's brilliantly insane. So if you want something to cheer up a miserable Monday evening, don't watch Coronation Street. Watch the Lamb live. It's fantastic. Martin Bick saying, my mate always ate a fowl. I'll stick to a madras, thanks. Anyway, it's that time of the evening. Shall we have a look at a selection of guitars which have pictures of which have been sent in this week? And here we go. Let's load that up. And interesting one to start off with. So I need to go into here and then do that. And then click on that, and then do that, and then click on that, and we should be seeing this one here, which is from Mr. Chris 5254. This is his, what's this, electro mandolin. I tried playing a mandolin once, and my chubby fingers are too fat for the frets, so It's the reason I've never bought one, because you can pick one up pretty cheap now. It's just for a bit of daft. I tried playing one a while ago. I think I wanted to recreate that intro from "Losing My Religion" by REM, and by the time I got past, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse pointer on here. I'll assume you can, but by the time I got to about this fret here, I was in trouble because I couldn't finger a note. Anyway, what else we got? This is Derek Stopperton's go-to Yamaha F310. This is his go-to acoustic. I've had a few pictures of Yamaha guitars sent in recently, and they are just a fantastic brand of guitars. They're not aspirational. They just quietly get on with making damn good workhorse instruments. And, I remember there was a guy I was at college with in the 80s had a Yamaha acoustic that looked very much like that. And I remember it being a beautiful guitar, not just in terms of how it played, but, the gorgeous tone it produced as well. So you basically can't go wrong with a Yamaha. And this one lovely thing comes from Dr. Gomez 1. This is his Harley Benton Fusion with added Tone Rider generator pickups. I've had a couple of these guitars when they first came out, the first generation of the Harley Benton Fusions. And then, of course, I had the Fusion T, which was just over a year ago. I had that and got rid of it early this year because it just wasn't comfortable anymore. This is the state of play now. This is what a budget guitar looks like. Stainless steel frets and roasted maple and, Wilkinson hardware. Gosh, if you'd have told me as recently, and it does still feel quite recent, that you could have bought a guitar with that spec for less than $1,000 in like 1990s money, it would have been unthinkable. And here we are in 2024, and you can buy what would have once been a custom shop instrument. Beautiful looking guitar, it has to be said. For peanuts, relatively. Another Dr. Gomez one, another Harley Benton Les Paul Jr. Replaced wraparound bridge and added a Lola pickup. There are some people, and I would not argue with them, who would say that that would be, possibly the only guitar you ever need. There's a brilliant video somewhere on YouTube of that guy who used to be the editor of Guitarist magazine, Neville Martin, just with a single pickup, dog ear P90. I think, I don't think his was a Harley Benton. In fact, it wasn't. It was an actual Gibson. But an example of this particular species, shall we say, and he just demonstrated the breadth of tones you can get out of it. I've never been able to do that out of a single pickup P90 guitar. I do like another pickup as an option, but for those talented enough, that is potentially all the guitar you need. And there is something a bit sort of kind of cool, blue collar, workman-like workhorse about that kind of look, I think. Then what have we got here? We've got Ian Cochran's pedal board rig that he's putting together, that he's going to be going out and gigging with. Something tells me that Ian is something of a fan of Universal Audio pedals. He's got the Ruby there, which is essentially a Vox AC30 in a pedal. The California Dream, that basically the Fender was that Deluxe Reverb pedal. And then the one that I'm really, really curious about checking out, the Lion pedal. I've got the Jim's 45 pedal here, which I'm just gonna hook that up and give it another. Might get another video out of that one, because I've been playing around with it recently and getting a little bit more used to the controls on it. But that Jim's 45 is a £100 pedal, and that Universal Audio Lion pedal is about 300. I'm just interested to see what else you're getting in terms of a Marshall in a box. Then we've got the Del Verb, and we've got a nice little modulation unit over the other side, and the switching system at the front. Looks like a really properly adaptable board with a load of classic tones on that. That is, that's a nicely put together little collection of tones that I would wager. Moving on, we've got a couple more Yamahas. These come from Len MAA. That's his 6-string, and obviously a 12-string next to it. I like the sound of a 12-string, but I don't like the reality of living with one and tuning one, and God forbid replacing the strings on one. It's just, I would rather just, I've got, as many of you know, I've got a spare Harley Benton Dreadnought that I've got in Nashville tuning, which when you double that up with a regular 6-string acoustic, it gives you a 12-string sound. Incidentally, what I like to do with that is I like to kind of pan the 6-string to one side, and I like to pan the regular tuning to one side and the Nashville tuning to the other, so you get like a stereo 12-string sound, which is, I think, a rather pleasing result. But again, you can't go wrong with Yamahas, can you? And then here's some from, I think this is, oh no, it's not the last selection of the day. We've got some from Rob Bald. We've got an Epiphone, I believe that is the 59 Les Paul, and a guitar that, I've had experience of. I'm sorry, Rob, I can't remember what this one is. It does say so in the email, but I haven't got the email handy. Kind of almost like Neapolitan ice cream or a layer cake finish on that one. And I believe that this one is the Harley Benton SC550. Again, a guitar which is, I think, punches well above its weight in terms of the tones it produces and the feel of it as well. It doesn't feel like a £300 guitar or whatever the cost. Feels much more high end. And then this one, which is the last selection for this week, comes from Rubbish Guitar Bloke. This is his Strandberg, and he told me that he's been putting Christmas decorations on that, but I don't know, does that look like a fairy at the top of the tree, or at the top of the head? Well, I was going to say headstock, but there isn't one. At the top of the neck, I think that looks more like a clanger. Anyone remember the clangers? the Soup Dragon and the Iron Chicken and Blue String Pudding. Yes, this was children's TV in the 70s. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just Google the Clangers, and there is plenty of information online. They were basically a bunch of pink knitted creatures that lived on the moon and ate blue string pudding. And anyway, I won't mather on about that. That's this week's selection of Readers' Wives, as you lot keep insisting on calling it. I really don't understand that reference, if I'm honest. Apparently it's to do with some kind of magazine of which I have no experience. Anyway, down the hatch, and time for a refill. Talk amongst yourselves. Well, you're doing that anyway, aren't you? Right. So once again, is this going to be a flake or is this going to be an acceptable pour? Let's see. Not that I care. It all goes down the same way, doesn't it? Not a bad one, that. Again, that would not be offensive to me if I was served that in a local hostelry. Cheers, everyone. Johnny D is saying, very good one-to-one with David Gilmore and Rick Beato went this week on Beato's channel. Excellent interview. Gilmore was very relaxed and talkative. Recommend it. I'm going to take issue with you there, Johnny D. I watched that last night and I nearly nodded off halfway through. I saw the thumbnail of the David Gilmore interview. We're going to get all of the, the inside track on, how Dark Side of the Moon was recorded, and and what it was like being in Pink Floyd at the height of their powers. Is still on speaking terms with Roger Waters? What's the state? All of these things I thought would be like kind of in there, and all he did, it seemed to me, was just talk about his new album. And I was disappointed by it, I have to say. Budget Guitar Show. Johnny, thank you very much. Cheers for the shout out. I'm live at 6:30 tonight for a live guitar review and live Sunday at the same time for the usual show. Everybody, go and check out Johnny, Budget Guitar Show. You know what you're getting with Johnny? The name of the channel says it all. It's Johnny is a proud exponent of entry-level guitars, and as he says in his own videos, these videos contain entry-level guitars and entry-level guitar playing. I think you're selling yourself a bit short there, Johnny. Speaking as somebody that teaches beginners all the time, you're a little bit better than you think you are, so don't call yourself entry level. But Johnny's kind of full of like the punk ethos, and as I said earlier, just clatter out a glorious noise on the guitar and hope for the best. And as I say, there's a lot to be said for that. But go and check out Johnny's channel. Put your link in the chat if you haven't already done so, Johnny. Lammy's saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Gilmore can barely remember the 70s at this point. Johnny's saying that was to have a go at the trolls. Yeah, well, we all get them, mate. We all get them. It's just like, when I first got a video that like went properly kind of viral in terms of, kind of getting my channel noticed, it was in 2018. I'd been posting on YouTube for 10 years before that, and I did this video. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but anyway, it kind of went mad in terms of the number of views. It got me monetized, which was good. I started getting these. At that time, I still had notifications turned on. So every time somebody replied to and commented on my video, my phone would go ping and I'd get an email about it. I've since turned that right off. My phone has quite enough opportunities to ping and bong and chirp and chime at me and just generally disrupt me day. So I turned that off. But at the time, it was like, and all of these kind of, well, a lot of them were positive, but quite a lot of them were just basically people trolling me. And I just thought, don't know how I feel about this. And then I had a little word with myself and I said, am I going to be the kind of person that lives their life around what keyboard warriors are typing on the internet? And the answer to that was easy. Well, no. So I just thought, okay, I don't give a shit. Just crack on, lads. And life has been good ever since. Colin Falcon saying, Mr. Gilmore has a house next door to a good friend of mine in Brighton. Apparently, Mr. Gilmore is not very sociable. Well, I'm not going to hold that against him. It's, when you are particularly shy and maybe quiet and reserved, that can often be misread as standoffish and a little bit up yourself. It's a true story. Years ago, I was in a band with a guy, basically BBC Radio 1, which is the sort of popular music radio station in the UK, ran a series of competitions years and decades ago, and it was prizes that money can't buy, and it was like a phone-in kind of quiz sort of thing, and a drummer I was in a band with at the time won, and one of the prizes was you get backstage pass to go and see, and you not only do you see like the band in concert, but a backstage pass to go and see Van Halen, right, on their UK tour. And he won, and he said, Michael Anthony was just a great guy, properly down to earth. Alex Van Halen, exactly the same. David Lee Roth was exactly as you expected Dave Lee Roth to be. That stage persona is not a stage persona. That is David Lee Roth. That's what he's like probably when he's brushing his teeth on the morning. He said, but Eddie Van Halen backstage was just the most kind of quiet, shy guy, was just sat in the corner of the dressing room practicing his scales, and and barely said boo to a goose. So, it's I'm not going to have a go at anybody for being a little bit introverted, shall we say. I'm prepared to be charitable in the case of David Gilmore. Anyway, I'm blethering on here, and it's time we had a little bit of a kind of diversion into viewers' tales. I will just mention that if you have any pictures of guitars, your pride and joy, anything guitar related, really, we saw that pedal board there from Ian. Just anything guitar related, send your pictures to JR, as in John Robson, Guitar Tuition, that's what I do for a living, all one word, jrguitartuition @gmail.com, and, they'll end up on the live stream at some point in the viewers' guitars section. Likewise, if you have any tall tales of your escapades in rock and roll history or whatever it is, I don't care if you gild the lily. I don't care if you embellish the truth a little bit, as long as it's entertaining. So, and I'll read them out like I'm going to read this one out. I think this one comes from Stuart Young. It says, "Hi John, I live in Belfast, and 30 odd years ago, a close mate of mine who was very well known on local TV and radio, landed a dream gig with MTV, which was in its prime at that time. Any weekend that he was home, we were knocking about together, so I would go to meet him and hang out with a few high-profile people who were visiting Northern Ireland. I met the Manic Street Preachers twice. The second time was when they played a gig in Belfast the night that the Tolerate This album went to #1. I was invited to the post-gig party and got chatting to James Dean Bradfield for quite a while, who was a really nice bloke. I spent a few hours in the company of Magenta Divine. God, I remember her. She was a TV presenter, wasn't she? And propped up the bar at a swanky Belfast hotel with Lewis Emmerich Grant. Oh, he was an actor in a soap opera called Brookside. And Jenny Powell from No Limits. Oh, God, I remember that show, No Limits on, yeah. Anyway, youth TV show in the UK. Jenny must have been tipsy because she kissed me and I haven't washed my lips since. She was a good-looking girl in her day, that's to be said. I spent a memorable evening in a VIP booth with a popular Belfast nightclub with Louise Redknapp, who I had an enormous crush on. She was delightful both visually and as a person. Finally, Gary Barlow was a guest on a local TV show, and my friend and I had arranged to pick him up from the green room and take him out on the town. I was standing in the green room watching Gary performing a song in the main studio on a monitor when a female voice right beside me said, "He's very good, isn't he?" Crystal Gale was standing beside me. I'd been standing beside the door of her dressing room without realising it. I'd been madly in love with Crystal when I was about 15, and I had to admit my wee heart skipped a beat. She was absolutely tiny. I'm a short ass at under 5'8", but she just came up to about my shoulder. My mate and I did take Gary out for a few local hostelries, and he was very sound, down-to-earth bloke, but sadly Crystal didn't come with us. Regards, Stuart Young. What a lovely kind of bunch of reminiscences there. Again, if you've got any stories like that, they don't have to be as star-studded as that. Just send them to, as I said, the email address that I mentioned earlier, and I'll give them a shout out. And it's just interesting to see, what people's experiences with the great and the good are. I have another one. I told you about meeting Albert Lee, country guitar legend, at a guitarist show many years ago. Now, I never met the person in question in this story, but there is a sort of a family connection. When I was growing up, one of the big treats that you looked forward to on a weekend was I'd be probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years old. So this is like sort of mid to late 70s. One of the big treats was to go into Middlesbrough with your parents, do the weekly shopping, and maybe go to Roma Parish's toy shop. Residents of Middlesbrough will remember that one, and then stop for what was called a Knickerbocker Glory, an ice cream sundae by any other name, at Ria's Ice Cream Parlour on the corner of Ayrsham Street and Linthorpe Road in Middlesbrough. And the long-haired, slightly lanky-looking guy behind the counter was the son of the Ria family. He went by the name of Chris. And this was just on the brink of him kind of, I think he was still recording demos at the time, and kind of before he had a record deal, and he was still kind of working in the family ice cream business. And I remember my mother telling me that yes, he's a wrong on him. She says, I caught him smoking a cigarette outside the cafe once, and I didn't have to give him a clip round the lug. So my mother has boxed Chris Rea around the ears. So there you go. That's my claim to fame. Anyway, what you been talking about while I've been blethering on? Let's have a look. Steve Cassidy saying, "Don't think I'd ever heard Gilmore talking before. Was quite surprised that he talks like Prince Charles, King Charles now, mate. Get with the program." But yes, he does sound incredibly posh, doesn't he? What else have I missed? Let's have a quick look. I think I'm back beyond where I left out. So let's. John Maxon, George Harrison's Futurama guitar sells for a record 1.27 million. I remember George talking about that guitar when he was interviewed by Guitar Player magazine in the 80s, and he said it was an absolute dog to play. But it was the only guitar that had that Strat sound in the late 50s, early 60s in the UK when you couldn't get a Strat. But yes, I wonder if there are any other really, really kind of cheaply made bad guitars that were played by iconic celebrity guitar players that will end up going for silly amounts of money. There's bound to be some, because every guitar player of my generation or older probably started on some kind of horrible, nasty, cheap steel string acoustic with an action like a hard-boiled egg slicer. And be interesting to see if one of those comes up for, I don't know, maybe Ry Cooder's first ever guitar gets auctioned or something. You just got to think, that guitar, that is an expensive guitar that, unlike the Paul Reed Smith Dragon, which deserves to be played, that'll be an expensive guitar that basically never deserved to be played. Robin Fawcett saying, was George's guitar called Rocky? That was his famous blue Strat that had all the kind of psychedelic paintwork on it that he said he stayed up late one night and did that. I'm thinking there was probably some form of chemistry involved, or maybe some kind of herb involved in his inspiration for that paint job. It was round about the same time, I think, that Eric Clapton got that Fool guitar, that SG with all the kind of psychedelic paintwork on it. I think George was possibly inspired by that. But yeah, that blue Strat Rocky was, I think it ended up being the guitar that George used for playing slide on. He jacked the action up on it and put heavy gauge strings on it. Malcolm Spillett saying, my first guitar was a Watkins Rapier, and you can get those again now, can't you? Some intrepid entrepreneur has bought the rights to use that Watkins brand name, and they're reissuing. So they're like a sort of I've seen what's the name of that Geordie bloke? He's a bit of a medallion man with the gold chains and the shirt open to the chest, and always has jeans with rips in the knees. I can't think of his name now, but he's one of the big sort of YouTube guitar reviewers. And I saw him reviewing one of those a little while ago and getting some quite nice sounds out of it. But I don't know, it didn't appeal to me, it has to be said. But they are a kind of nice nostalgic thing, aren't they? Malcolm Spillett saying he almost bought a Future Armour in the late 60s, but managed to avoid it. I am sort of on talking about this nostalgia thing. I am kind of on the lookout to see if I can pick up at a reasonable price, because they always seem to be ridiculously inflated. And then when one at a reasonable price does come along, I never have the funds to be able to buy it. But a Woolworths Top 20, because I've spoken about that guitar many times on the channel, my first ever electric guitar. The second ever electric guitar was the Satellite Les Paul copy that you can see there. Not that actual one, that was very kindly given to me by a viewer of the channel called Neil. And that's a beautiful nostalgic guitar. But yeah, the Woolworths Top 20. What are you saying there, Johnny? Maybe I should sell my Encore 666 Staton Super Strat as played by the iconic Me on an album by a band that I can't name on your stream because you'd get shut down. It's that iconic. Okay, mate. Yeah. So if it's being played by Johnny from Budget Guitar Show, yes. But then those Encore guitars, they weren't bad. They weren't bad. I mean, they were plywood and everything, but they were a perfectly serviceable guitar. A lot of my students, when I first started teaching back in the early 90s, they'd rock up with one of those heavier than a boat anchor Encore E76 Strat copies. And it was accepted back then. If you paid that kind of money for an electric guitar, it was going to be made from plywood. And then here's why I think the Yamaha Pacifica 112 was a game-changer guitar. Because, I think it was 93 or 94 those things came out. And suddenly, and they were deliberately finished in a natural finish so you could see that they weren't made from plywood. And suddenly, plywood guitars just disappeared overnight. Squire Strats back then were made of plywood. The Encore E76, massively popular selling guitar. Marlin Sidewinders were still around. All these things were made from plywood. The Epiphone by Gibson Strat copy, if anyone remembers that abomination. Again, a plywood guitar. I actually had a chap turn up for a lesson with one of those, and the plywood was delaminating. It was starting to, basically the body was starting to split. I'm not making any judgment here about, the tonal qualities of different timbers, because that would be an unwise move, wouldn't it? But yeah, the plywood on those guitars, especially those Epiphone ones, did have a bit of a reputation for not even being decent quality plywood. And the Pacifica came along, and suddenly plywood guitars were history. Craig Stamen saying, my first guitar was an Encore Les Paul Jr. copy. I think that I remember you coming for lessons with that back when you were a young wee whippersnapper, and I still had hair back in the 90s, mate. So, yes. Now there's another brand that could do with a bit of a revamp. I think JHS still put guitars out under the Encore brand. Maybe they should kind of do something with that, because it's not like it's had a high profile, in recent years. Let's have a look, see what we've got. Chris Otwell, what are you saying there, mate? Way back in the day when I was a secondary school teacher, I persuaded the music teacher to buy 2 Pacificas. Loads of kids learnt on them. Great budget guitar. They were indeed, mate. They were indeed. I was, at the time they came out, I was playing sort of on the, well, we call it a club band up here, but it's the sort of weddings and bar mitzvahs kind of circuit, where you're a little bit more upmarket than a bunch of alehouse belters. You put a show on, you have a backdrop, you do that sort of thing. And I was, I used to kind of hang out with a lot of other guitarists in those kinds of bands, and they were all buying Yamaha Pacificas as their backup guitar, for when they broke that and the PV Predator. That was another guitar that everybody seemed to be, kind of quite, into at the time as a good quality budget guitar. The early 90s was very much the time when budget guitar manufacturers started getting their act together and making instruments that weren't made out of plywood, bubblegum and snot, basically. And on that note, chaps, I've just noticed we are 59 minutes into the stream, and not to put too fine a point on it, what goes in has got to come out. So I'm going to neck me beer. And then head off downstairs via the used beer department, which is just down the landing. So thank you once again, everyone, for turning up and watching a fat, bald northern bloke talk absolute bollocks for an hour. It's been a blast, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.